It's The Franklin Show, live from Franklin with America's favorite adopted pup, Franklin Delano Roosevelt Lloyd Wright Sinatra Seltzer, and his friend and favorite Franklin dog adopter, Michael Seltzer. And I'm your announcer, Ann DeLisi, the cat adopter of Cadju Avenue on Detroit's East Side. Now, here's The Franklin Show.
And thank you to my fabulous band and to this audience for being here. All of you standing outside in the rain and being so patient. You'll be rewarded. Everybody in the studio audience is going to get a paw print from Franklin just for being here. That's right, thank you, all of you. A paw print from Franklin, a collectible indeed. We have a great show for you once again. We are excited about it, and we will start the show right after this.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
And we're back. Wow, hi.
Hi.
Jill Jack, how long has it been that I've been begging to get you on the Franklin Show?
I'm so sorry.
And so grateful to have you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here today.
Well,
And it's a beautiful day today.
It is a beautiful, it's very hot. I
It
feel
is-
like we're
it is
in
hot,
the
but
desert.
We've got like the Beyonce fan here, so we're good.
They take care of me here in the studio
They sure
once in a
do.
while. Once in a
Yeah.
while. All right, so Jill, you've been doing what you do so great for so long. Let's talk about you and the history of you. Where did it all begin?
Well, I think it began when I dropped out of nursing school. And
Really?
I sang my whole life, even as a kid. You know, we were in like a guitar group in church and things like that. My parents got us each a guitar when we were 9 years old. It was a requirement. And we each had to teach each other how to play. So you
All
taught
guitars?
the next kid. Yes, so my mom got my oldest sister guitar. She had to teach my second oldest and like 3 chords and so on and so forth. And then we all just kind of played together in our
Really?
house. Yeah.
Wait, and how many are you?
There's 5 of us. total.
5?
4 girls and 1 boy. My brother he wanted drums.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
And we called him God because he was the baby and my mom wanted all boys and my dad didn't want children. So.
You know, he could have replaced Pete Best when that opportunity
Oh,
came
you
up.
betcha.
You know, because
Yeah.
Ringo was just there hanging out.
Right?
That's
I know,
fantastic.
I
Wow.
know.
How great is
But
that?
yeah, so we started there and then I just started singing in clubs as a backup singer.
Like, what was the first club you sang in?
Okay, so it was called Sir Charles Pub in Royal Oak. And I was paid in quesadillas and drinks. and
Well, that's better than I get.
and the
Bring
reason
on a quesadilla and a drink. I'm a happy guy.
And the only reason I got the gig was because I was sitting with my girlfriend and one of the band, it was a duo, acoustic duo.
Yeah.
And one of the guys came up to flirt with my girlfriend. And he said, so what song do you want to hear? And she's like, well, I want to hear Fire and Rain by James Taylor, but I want her to sing it. And he was like, okay. So he let me up there and we sang 3-part harmonies and they invited me back and I came back every week for, God, a year or something.
Whatever
And
happened to
kinda-
this girlfriend? Because
She's still around. She's still here.
Is she
She's still my
playing?
best friend.
Is she play?
Oh, no, she doesn't play.
She
but
doesn't play.
No,
okay,
no.
so you got that
She's
over
like my
her.
promoter.
Because I can't imagine anybody bypassing you for somebody else. Because you're pretty good looking.
Oh, thank you. No,
Oh, yeah.
I think he liked brunettes. So, and she had
I do too,
beautiful,
but-
beautiful brown eyes. So,
Yeah.
yes, no, she's still gorgeous.
All right, so Sir Charles
Sir
Pub
Charles
in
Pub in Royal
Oak.
Oak. It's now a dentist office. That's how you know you're old. Like, I remember my mom used to say, oh, my high school is right there, but now it's a parking lot. So I would tell my daughter, oh, that's where I started.
So
Yeah.
what year was that?
Oh, gosh, in the 90s,
In the
for
90s,
sure.
okay.
Yeah.
And
I've
now
been-
fast forward to today. Where are you playing? Everywhere, anywhere, around the
So
country?
I had to take a little bit of time off during COVID and pandemic.
And
Yes.
there's this Mexican adventure.
I have a cruise coming up.
That's fantastic.
So I was approached by Anya Siglin, who is the venue promoter at the Arc in Ann
Yeah.
Arbor.
Yeah, yeah.
And she thought it was a great idea that I do this. And I'm like, what? And she's like, no, it's great. You come, you do shows, your fans are on the cruise with you, you get to hang out. And I thought, who's going to sign up? Oh my gosh, everybody signed up,
kidding?
and it's so fun.
I
Yes.
have been on music cruises. You know, my son runs Blue Note Records
Yes,
with
I
Don
do,
Was.
yes.
And Blue Note did 4 or 5 jazz cruises.
Yes, I know.
We met everybody, man.
It's really
I mean,
exciting for me. Yeah.
David Sanborn and Gregory Porter
Wow.
and Marcus Miller and Herbie Hancock and Chick Corea.
All hanging out
We
on
cruised
on
with
a
all
boat.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're
it's-
going to have a good old time.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to
And
be so much fun.
Back to quesadillas and a
Back to cases.
because it's a Mexican adventure.
Maybe I'll get those little tea sandwiches.
Well, whatever. I doubt that. Not if it's a Mexican cruise.
I know, right? No, it's going to be amazing, and I'm really looking forward
All right,
to
so
that
that's
too.
very cool. And what about locally elsewhere? Are you just around?
Pretty much everywhere. We do, it's music festival season, so that's fun. I just got done with the festival last
So
weekend.
they can go to jilljack.com.
Correct, yes.
And James will have that up on the screen, and people will be able to follow you wherever you go.
You bet. And get on my newsletter, because I don't bug people. I
Yeah.
only send about once a month, but that just kind of gives you an inside scoop to other things.
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
that's great.
So,
I
yeah.
love that. All
Yeah.
right, we'll put that up. And I am just grateful to have you here.
Thank you.
Because I've been wanting you on the show. You're a wonderful talent. And so how about you play a song for us?
Sure, sounds
Franklin's been waiting.
Oh,
so, okay,
good. He's
so
heavy breathing.
ladies and gentlemen, it's Jill Jack on The Franklin Show.
Wanna die laughing, wanna love till it hurts. I wanna smile at the joy of a 2-year-old who feels all love in the world. I wanna live without deadlines, wanna walk through a fire and not get burned. I wanna view the world like a painter, colors of life in a swirl. I wanna live, I wanna live like there's no tomorrow. I wanna race to the finish, wanna run to the Mount of breath. I wanna dance to a drum that's always been playing in my head. I wanna kiss like the old movies, wanna stay in bed on a rainy day, wanna hear an old man crying when he's telling stories of yesterday. Wanna live, I wanna live like there's no tomorrow. You don't know when your number's up, so don't stop drinking from that cup. You gotta live big, love large, like you can't get enough, like you can't get enough. Oh no, like you can't get enough. Oh no. I wanna hear my daughter's voice say, Mama, I love you so. I wanna feel the arms of a good, strong man who'd never, ever let me go. I wanna cook a big breakfast, invite everyone I know. We'd sit and talk and laugh for a while and say, man, where'd the time go? I wanna live, I wanna live like there's no tomorrow. Oh, I gotta live, yeah, we gotta live like there's no tomorrow, no, no, no tomorrow. We gotta live like there's no tomorrow.
Hauntingly beautiful. Thank you,
you.
Jill Jack, for
Thank-
being here with Franklin and I.
Well, thanks for
God
having
bless
me.
you. Our pleasure.
Oh, thanks. Thanks,
Regards
Franklin.
to your Franklin from my Franklin.
Yes, Frank the Tank to Franklin.
All right. We'll be right back, folks. Thanks for tuning in.
Be right there. Wait. Use the shovel and bucket of water, remember? Drown, stir, drown, feel. Then make sure it's cool.
Where'd you learn that?
SmokeyBear.com. Brushed up on some tips before we left. Don't want to start a wildfire, right?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, we're back. Thank you, everybody. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Gary Graff, author, entertainment writer, and author of these two fabulous books. This is your latest.
This is the latest,
Yeah.
the 501 Essential Albums of the 80s.
And then-
follow up to the 500 Essential Albums of the
Of the
90s.
90s, yeah.
Hopefully the precursor to 500 Essential Albums of the 70s.
Well, that
Or-
would be logical, I would think.
I would hope.
And then maybe you'll keep going in 60s and 50s. And
I don't know about it's an interesting discussion with album. Well, because really the 60s was the first album decade.
True,
And then,
yeah.
and interestingly, in a way, the 90s were the last album decade.
Yeah.
We still have albums now, of course,
Right.
but it's different. People don't listen to albums and they don't buy music like they used to.
No, that's true.
And
That's
in the
true.
same manner.
Although
so-
there is a resurrection of vinyl.
Of vinyl.
I mean, they are out there promoting vinyl. But yeah, the whole music industry has changed, clearly. And you've been doing this for how many decades?
Since I had hair.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and since it was not white. So.
So, all right, so let's talk about the origin of Gary Graff here in Detroit. Where did it start?
So I came here in 1982 to work at the Free Press. I had just graduated the University of Missouri.
Yeah.
And came, and there was an opening to write about music, which was something I'd done on the side of everything else I'd done in journalism. I was a sports reporter,
Yeah.
I was an investigative reporter, loved music since I was yay big.
Yeah.
And I had a brother who was a hippie.
Yeah.
He was significantly older than I was, and a hippie in the days when it was great to be a hippie.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I grew up on a steady diet of the Beatles and the Stones and the Airplane and the Dead.
The
and,
best.
Yeah.
The best.
So, so music was this little thing I kept doing on the side of everything else I kept doing in journalism.
Yeah.
And fate lined up, and I had the opportunity to do it full time.
Right. And what a great.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I mean, this guy is at every concert. I mean, this past week you've been
I
at
just came off 7 in a row.
7 in a row, and most of them at Pine Knob,
Yeah.
which is
least,
not an
yeah.
easy in and out, you know?
No, there's if you do it long enough, we have ways.
Yes,
as they
there's
say.
always that VIP entrance and all that stuff. I get that.
we don't
yeah,
tell
I know,
anybody.
I know. Everybody, just text me. I'll let you know. So
Don't
anyway,
listen to them.
so, all right. So did you replace anybody when you
I
started?
don't believe so. There
You
had
were the
been,
first?
No, I wasn't the first. There had been,
Yeah.
but there hadn't been in a while.
Yeah.
So
Nobody notable that comes to mind.
Kim McAuliffe, I remember, was there.
And then there was that McFarlane guy.
He worked at the news.
Yeah. I've had Jim on the show before. I love him.
And I'm not sure who else had done it at the Free Press.
Yeah.
So, but there hadn't been anybody full time in a few years
Right.
until I got there.
Right. And so then, what got you into writing these books?
Well, listen, anybody who writes,
Yeah.
anybody who writes a note wants to write a book, right? I had the opportunity. The timeliness of it was during the strike, during the newspaper strike in '95.
Yeah.
The Marty Connors, who was working with Visible Ink Press here in town, which is, if you remember Gale, they, great company.
Yeah.
And we were at a concert together, and he approached me and he said, we should do something. And from there we launched the Music Hound album guide series.
Right.
And that ran for a number of years. I think we did at least a dozen. There might have been more books about different genres, rock, R&B, country.
Yeah.
Did a soundtracks book. And I also did a Bruce Springsteen book for them.
Yeah.
And then just rolled. And so the books are something, I'm still doing the day-to-day music journalism, but books are something that are part of that. So I've done these. I did a Bob Seger book with Tom Weschler.
Yeah.
Did a Neil Young book and a Rock and Roll Miss book, both with my good friend Dan Dirkels in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And then I've been doing these are the, if I'm remembering right, the 4th and 5th books I've done with Motor Books, which is the publisher. And we're working on another book, different kind of book right now. And so they're just a company I like dealing with. I like my direct contacts. I love their design staff.
These
can
are
see from
very
the
well done.
books, they're beautiful.
Really good looking.
I did an Alice Cooper at 75 book with them that was encased in black velvet.
Oh,
and
wow.
you know, it's so to work with people like that who treat the books with that kind of care
and I mean,
is a real pleasure.
It's nicely laid out. It's all color. They're all great little stories about each one. Oh, I turned to Van Morrison. No guru, no method, no teacher. One of the best.
He was a hard pick in the 80s because a number of these artists are, because Van Morrison puts out a record every year, right?
Well,
he's
put out 5 albums in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, so you know, to say, okay, what are the essential albums of any artist in a given decade, but especially the productive ones in the 80s. You know, you had Prince, you had REM, Talking Heads, they were just coming out just like that.
Right.
So the process was arduous.
Arduous indeed. Yeah.
And I had there are a number of contributors in each of these each of these books, a lot of people from around the Detroit area. And they helped. We had, I euphemistically call them discussions about who should and who shouldn't be in the book. The story I always like to tell is we'd be at concerts, a number of us together, covering the concerts. But before or between acts, we'd be talking about the book and the spreadsheet, having these euphemistic discussions. And some of the people sitting around us would gesture to the security like, these people are going to start swinging at each other. And but that was
and developing relationships with the artists. I mean, that's a wonderful thing too. I've run into you in the dressing room with Warren Treaty and others, and to have that ability to communicate directly with the artists when they've performed, that's a special opportunity.
And it isn't just the hang, Michael. It's the ability to ask the questions, both that I have and that the fans have.
Right.
To be able to really delve into, especially to delve into the creative process. Right. To talk to artists, try to push them a little about songwriting, which for so many of them is this mysterious, craft. You know musicians, you've spoken to them. They don't always and frequently know where it's coming from. It's Keith Richards was the old antenna method, Yeah. Put the antenna up and hopefully it receives something.
That's a good way to describe them, the Stones. Is there a particular story that's a favorite for you?
Well, recently because of Brian Wilson's passing, I remember they brought him through town when he was having his first comeback, which was with the album that had Love and Mercy on it.
Yeah.
And he was doing interviews at the Renaissance Center. I think it was still the Westin maybe back then. So I went over there, and this is when he was still under Eugene Landy's care, the psychotherapist who helped and then didn't help. Yeah. But so a couple of Landy's guys were there. They used to call them the surf Nazis, and they were these blonde, chiseled guys. I put my tape recorder down. They put their tape recorders down. So I get to talking to Brian, and Brian's sadly damaged goods, and he was on, at that point, a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, to help out. So we're in the interview, and it's tough. You're trying to pull stuff out of him. And then Brian goes away. His body was there. Eyes rolled back up in his head. I'm staring at whites.
Wow.
And so I say to the guy, guys, oh, don't worry, that happens all the time. What do you mean that happens all the time? This isn't normal. So exactly 2 minutes and 34 seconds, because I had it on a recording, afterwards, the eyes roll back in and he picks up on the exact syllable he left off on. So,
whoa, I've never heard that before.
I took a long walk on the waterfront after that.
I'll bet.
And the other great story was it's not a mistake to drink with Keith Richards. It's a mistake to try to keep up.
Oh, God.
And I wasn't trying to keep up.
Yeah.
He just kept pouring, and this was an interview.
Yeah.
So, I think, if I remember right, like when you were a kid at school, they pinned my airplane ticket on the thing, poured me into the cab and said, get him to Newark.
Right.
So I remember turning on the tape recorder after that interview thinking, how did this come out? And it wound up okay, but...
Well, this guy, they show on the internet right now, there's a picture of him holding 2 little babies, and it says Keith Richard with Adam and Eve.
Pretty much. He will be... There is something about those British musicians of that generation. I don't know if it was whatever was in the air after World War II, but look at him.
Look at Ringo Starr
Ringo.
prancing on the stage recently like a 50-year-old.
And
he's 84?
80, I think 84, 85.
And he just
playing drums,
he looks great, and he's got that pep and energy.
Yeah.
And Jagger's same.
Jagger's out there, Keith, McCartney, The Who.
I mean, just think about this, Gary. We're living in a time where, these icons that we grew up in the 60s and 70s adoring are all aging into their 80s. And, I'd say the next 5 years are going to be really rough.
Maybe.
Dylan, all these guys.
With everybody but Keith Richards.
Right.
And it was interesting. We just had Bob Dylan and Willie Nelson in town with that Outlaw Music
Outlaw Festival.
And you sit there and it really does hit you.
Yeah.
That a lot hits you, but both the artistry
right.
and how long they've been doing it, the wisdom they display and how they present themselves at these advanced ages to make it make sense, but also that knowledge. Yeah. And I guess it comes, after a week where you do lose Brian Wilson and you lose.
There were 2 or 3 that we lost.
And it does hit you. Is this the last?
Lou Christie.
Lou Christie, which my Pittsburgh brethren.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm a Pittsburgh native,
right,
and I remember he was a local hero.
And he looked so good. I saw recent pictures of him. So, to lose somebody like that at 84, which, that's not unexpected, but it was unexpected.
Exactly.
So
it's always going to feel unexpected, even though we know it's coming. And rather than lament it, I mean, even talking about Sly Stone and Brian Wilson, who would have had on their bingo card either of those guys making it to 82?
You're right.
Really?
Right.
So
when so many were lost at 27.
Right. So let's be happy that. In Brian Wilson's case, this guy had a career resurgence. Those live shows he did from 1999 on, or maybe it was 89, were incredible.
There's certain artists that I will go and continue to see, including Frankie Valli, who has had better days. But man, you cannot help but appreciate the artistry and the creativity of that kind of talent. And he still gets up on that stage at 90, whatever, and performs an unbelievable number of concerts every year.
Would you say he's hanging on to what he's got?
He's hanging on to what he's got.
Something people don't understand, because I often get asked, like, they don't need the money, this or that, but you forget that it's their life's work.
It's in their blood.
And that hit me, again, seeing Dylan and Willie.
Right.
That's their life's work.
Yeah.
And it's what they do.
Right.
So it's not all that different from being a writer or a broadcaster or a roofer.
Right.
It's your work, and you go out and you do your work for as long as you want to or you're capable of.
As long as you're able to do it.
And we're lucky, as you were saying, we're lucky we get to still see them.
Oh my God. And honestly, the artists from the 70s, which was really the heart of rock and roll, the music industry, in my view, was the best era.
Well, everybody's going to have their best era.
The current stuff is not nearly as good, and you know it.
And get off my lawn, right?
And get off my lawn, you punks.
It's very different. I mean, the one thing I find myself thinking about now is, who is a 15-year-old now going to look at like we look at Dylan or the Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
I don't know.
And maybe. I mean, Taylor Swift's position there.
Yeah.
Is Chappell Roan going to get there? Is Olivia Rodrigo going to get there? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just because the delivery mechanisms and the business and the consumption is so different now
it is,
than it was. We got a record, we sat down there, we immersed ourselves in it, whether it was a bong or a spliff or whatever you had with it, we immersed ourselves in that music, and the only place you could get it was the radio, other than your turntable or your tape deck. And so that, because we had such limited parameters, I think people of our age created a different relationship to the music
true.
than even the most ardent music fan today has. They're listening to songs, and they're listening to stuff just like this.
And I talk about this a lot. I do a lot of tributes to radio, as you know. That's my background and my love. Doing tributes to the old ABX and Riff and Keener 13, these great DJs that we grew up listening to, some of whom are still with us, thank God, and the stories that they tell. But we don't have that today.
Not very many.
You know, it's tough.
It's
tough.
You know, I find that when I do listen to satellite radio, that's become kind of the home,
Yeah.
not a graveyard, but a home for some of the, I mean.
Some of the great talents are there.
they-
Shotgun Tom Kelly
Yeah.
is on every
Yep.
night. He's phenomenal. He's
Richard Blade, the
Yeah.
British DJ. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of them, all the old the original MTV VJs.
Right.
And they get to tell their stories.
Matt,
and keep it
what's
out
his
there.
name, in from LA.
Oh, I know who
Yeah,
you-
he just got back after having a terrible stroke.
Oh, Matt
Pinfield. Matt
Pinfield, yeah.
Pinfield, yeah.
Yeah, and
He's
it's
ba-
good
he's
to
on-
hear him and see him. He's been posting a lot,
Yes,
so it's good to see
because
him.
he came through a terrible
Yeah.
stroke. So.
And there are, I do hear some young
Yeah.
radio
Oh, yeah.
personalities now, and they.
Well, they're voice tracking all over the country.
Well,
it's
and
a
that's
different.
that's part of the issue.
Yeah, right. Hey, Gary, you're a fascinating guy. I've wanted to have you on the show for a long time, and I'm very grateful.
I'm just here for Franklin.
I know,
so.
everybody is. But thank you for being here. These are great books, folks. Go on the Amazon and find them. Are they in bookstores? Or?
They are everywhere books are sold,
Oh,
and
all right.
I always put in a plug for the independent booksellers,
Yes.
of course. And if you see me tooling around, honk, pull me over. It's in the trunk of my car, too.
That's a good way to do it. Thanks, Gary. Whoa, appreciate
That's
you.
rock and roll.
I
Knock over
appreciate
the
you.
microphone.
Right. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll be right back, folks. Thanks for joining us on The Franklin Show.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Hey, we are back. Franklin and I are very pleased to have a genius in the broadcast industry, Mort Meisner. I am so appreciative to have you on the show.
Man, I'm thrilled to be here.
And
Franklin, I especially came to see you.
And yeah, and you knew that it was the Franklin Show,
Of
and you
course.
knew that this was Franklin, because I'm
Yeah.
just window dressing for that.
You're along for the ride.
So describe what you are to the people out there that don't know the name. And if you don't know Mort Meisner, something's wrong. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, what I am is a television news talent agent. So I
Yeah.
represent about 120 TV news people around the entire country. And in Detroit, I also do represent some radio people, including Mike Valenti and Rico Beard and Jim Costa in sports radio.
Yeah.
But in order to get where I am, I used to be a television news vice president
Yeah.
and news director at a variety of network-owned stations.
And you had something to do with Bill Bond's guy, yeah?
Yeah, so Billy and I started working together in the late 70s and early 80s
Yeah.
at WXYZ.
Right.
I learned so much from him. I was a peon, and he schooled me on how not to become good at menial tasks.
Oh.
Because if you do,
You're gonna
you'll
be-
never be promoted.
That's right.
So I said, well, what do I do when there's a menial task? He said, go take a leak.
Well, wait, describe what a menial task might be at a TV station.
Back then, it was changing typewriter ribbons, which most millennials have never heard of typewriters.
No.
Changing copy paper,
Yeah.
making coffee.
Yeah.
And I did learn that, and within 6 to 8 months, back at the beginning of my career, I started a nice ascension in the industry.
Yes,
and
you did.
I left WXYZ and in the early 80s and went to CBS News, which led to ABC News,
Yeah.
where I was part of the team that hired Oprah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I remember when Oprah came to town to visit Broadcast House and said, this is like a country club here. Because, you know, Channel 7's property was, and we've talked about this before, it's an amazing property. And-
Magnificent.
Yeah.
And I remember back in the day when I was there used to be parties out on the lawn.
We've talked about them many times on this show.
Yeah, they brought in small amusement park rides.
Yes.
Major restaurants would bring their ovens there, and sometimes the next day, sometimes they wouldn't find underwear in the bushes.
JJ was on the show recently. He talked about similar kinds of activities at the parties.
Yeah,
And
because
so, Jim Johnson.
Yeah, WRIF was on
the
the
grounds.
grounds there.
Yeah.
There would be horse and there'd be hay rides there, and
I know, they were
mega drinking.
Yes. There were marathons nonstop. And I used to play croquet on Friday afternoons at Channel 7.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
With who?
I was in the league with, well, who was
the sales guys,
yeah,
probably?
Yeah, Lee Gannon and Ed Pearson and Mike Murray and all of those crazy. But Bonds would come out and he'd knock a few back, you know.
Yeah.
But Fridays in the summertime in Detroit, media, you went to Channel 7, you hung out, you played croquet, you ate, and then you went home. It was your weekend.
Yeah,
it
was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Back then, the ABC-owned stations, which Channel 7 was, would have fall preview parties every August, where the top shows for the fall would be previewed, and all the stars would come to the various stations.
Yeah. Those were the glory days of broadcasting, and I was there.
They were.
So I enjoyed that. And the fact that you had so much close proximity to the god of news, Bill Bonds.
The greatest.
There's nobody better.
I went from XYZ to the CBS station in Chicago.
Yeah.
Both stations were considered the two top stations in the country. But
you had Bill, was that Bill Curtis?
Bill Curtis, Walter Jacobson, who I used to call, along with Mike Royko, Walter Baby Talk. But Curtis was great.
Yeah.
Nobody ever matched Bill Bonds.
No, man, he was something else.
I miss him. I miss him dearly.
I think there's some politicians in this country who are not overly preoccupied with telling the truth. A politician says one thing on Monday, another on Friday. I'm going to remind you people of that.
What most newsmen think off camera, Bill Bonds says on camera, and he says it on Channel 7 News.
Now, were you at Channel 2 when he was at Channel 2 doing
I
news?
brought him there.
I thought you did. That's what I thought.
You know, he ran out of chances at XYZ, and we brought him to JBK, and he was done.
Yeah.
You know, he was there for a little while, and I loved Bill, and that was at the time the late Rich Fisher was there.
Right.
And I had already brought in Huel Perkins, who was groomed to replace Joe Glover, who threw a chair at me. So then he was easy to replace.
That's all it takes?
May he rest in peace.
Oh, God bless. Well, Huel just retired, did he not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Huel, I brought along with my boss to St. Louis from Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
And then we brought Huel here. And a great kibitz. When I fired Joe Glover, I went into Huel's office. I said, Huel, I got great news. I just fired Joe Glover. And he said, oh no, they're going to blame the black guy. I said, don't worry about it. And then I told him what we were going to pay him. It was double his salary, and he was just very happy.
He was willing to take the blame.
Yeah, he was. He was.
All right, now let's talk about the people you fired. Now, it's probably hundreds, maybe thousands.
Well, when I took over JBK in July of 1988, it was a disgraceful country club. The on-air product was terrible. The ratings were worse. And I actually had to fire 38 people in 60 days.
Oh, my God.
And I remember there was it's never pleasant, let alone fun.
No.
Firing people, but there was one particular woman, I won't say her name, she said, I'm tired of being blanked by a bunch of blank blanks with big blanks. F you. I said, this is going to be easy.
Gosh.
Don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out. It was...
Did she ever work again?
No. No, she didn't.
She didn't deserve to.
It was
with that attitude.
It was sort of what
I think I saw her at Taco Bell recently.
It could be.
Yeah.
In the drive-through. Yeah, I mean, it had become a country club
Yeah.
that had really never recovered from when XYZ stole all their great talent.
yeah, man.
But I'm proud to say the hard work we did, and since then, really restored the roar for JBK. And
Yeah.
I represent Taryn Asher, who's their lead female
good.
right now.
Good. All right, but let's get back to the firings, because
Yeah.
that's the fun stuff
Yeah.
for me. I'm being facetious. But is there another notable, you don't have to necessarily say the name, you could say the initials, or you could say nothing, but what would be an example of another just outrageous? Yeah.
T.Y. Chang,
Okay.
who was
I don't know that one.
an investigative reporter
Yeah.
who got caught.
Yeah.
He had some people smoke crack on camera.
Oh. Wait, Marion Barry was in there.
Yeah, well, different city. In any case,
Yeah.
we didn't renew his contract. He didn't see what was wrong with what he did.
Well, that's
and,
fair.
And
That's
while
fair.
he didn't smoke it,
Yeah.
he shot video of someone breaking the law. But inexplicably,
Yeah.
he got hired by WCBS in New York.
Whoa.
So maybe I was the crazy one.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I've heard worse.
It was crazy.
I should have used you. You know, I didn't really have an agent during the years before the Franklin show. You know, I did that hard-hitting investigative show, Hard Seltzer. You remember that?
Yeah.
You know, before Chris Hansen and all his baby shit, I was doing Hard Seltzer, and you know, we were huge. We were huge, but I didn't have a good agent to negotiate
It's
with.
never too late.
It's never too late.
You
yeah.
know,
I
speaking
can
of Chris
resurrect.
Hansen, I
Yeah.
just had dinner with him in New York because I also represent his son, Connor Hansen, who is an up-and-coming superstar at Fox News.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good. I haven't seen that name, but I'll watch.
Yeah, he's
for it.
good.
Yeah.
Good young guy.
So now you're just killing it. You're out there. You got how many clients?
About 120
Wow.
on-air TV news people.
Yeah.
In Detroit, I also do radio, but I also do some PR and crisis management back. You know, and I wrote a book that came out 4 years ago.
Yes. Let's talk about that book because James will show it on the screen.
Thank you.
And we're going to sell as many as we can.
Yeah, it was
we get a little royalty. But
You got to get, at least Franklin
Yeah,
will.
right.
Milk bones.
for treats. Yeah.
Yeah, it was called Enough to Be Dangerous,
Yeah.
and it's about my impoverished life growing up, very, very
Oh,
poor,
truly.
evicted numerous times as a little boy. My dad, may he rest in peace, was a cabbie. I remember they had a $38 a month mortgage payment they still couldn't make in the 60s.
Wow.
Then, you know, my career as a major rock and roll promoter in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then TV news, and then as an agent.
Yeah.
You know, Huell wrote the foreword, Huell Perkins,
Did he?
and he summed it up. Buckle up, it's a rough ride.
I love it.
Yeah, pretty
Well,
cool.
I am committed to reading it. I did a little research before you came in
I'll
here.
get you a copy.
Oh, God bless you.
Yeah,
man. I appreciate
absolutely.
that. Yeah, I appreciate that because I love that kind of story. I too came from the streets of Detroit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I grew up in Detroit, and you know I had a great life, but it wasn't like someone handed us anything, right? We're self-made.
No.
I met my wife in Detroit at Henry Ford High School, started dating when we were 15 and 16.
Wow.
Happy to say we've got 49 years under our belt, 2 of the happiest years of my life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And I went to Oak Park. You know, we had great, Fagenson went there, a couple of years older, Feiger, a couple of years older, Larry Sherman, a year older. And
these are all solid people.
It was tough. I had a very tough upbringing, struggled.
But that made you who you are. You're
did.
a street fighter. And that's one of the things we learned growing up in that kind of an environment.
It does.
Right?
And I now
Never
know
say never.
in the 80s, I struggled with cocaine use, 81 to 89. I thought I was having fun, but I was really killing the pain.
Oh.
And happily, that's 36 years in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, and you came out of it pretty damn good.
Yeah, I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
A lot of gratitude.
Well, I am proud to know you, and
Same.
I want to spend some more time with you, but we can't do it here live in front of this fabulous audience. But I thank you for being here
Well,
today.
I want to thank you as well, and you're a reasonable, smart guy. I love our back and forths.
Yeah.
And it's an honor to be here today.
Oh, God bless you, man.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate that.
Thank
Mort
you.
Meisner, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mort Meisner, buy the book. It'll be on the screen, and we'll be right back.
Enough to be dangerous.
Enough to be
Thanks,
dangerous.
man.
All right.
This is great.
Look at that. It's so sad.
And I am so grateful to this wonderful studio audience, to my band, to my announcer, to the great cast of characters that work so hard behind the scenes making this show a reality every week. We look forward to seeing you again next week right here on The Franklin Show. Good night, everybody.